So most people think that to quit drinking, they need willpower. They just need, to white knuckle it through, fight the cravings and just kind of hope that they're strong enough. Because this is the kind of bullshit that we're sold. And you see it in movies of, people locking themselves in a room and sweating it out. But here is the thing that almost nobody is willing to admit, that willpower almost always fails. Yes, that's right. Willpower will almost always fail. And the reason is it has absolutely nothing to do with you being weak at all. In fact, if you've tried to quit using willpower and failed, that's not you being broken. That's actually normal. Willpower is basically using the wrong tool for the job. It's like using a butter knife for surgery. It doesn't matter how skilled you are if you're using the wrong implement, the wrong tool for the job. So if willpower doesn't work, what does? Well, stick with me, because what I'm about to share with you is astonishing, and it will completely change the way that you view quitting alcohol. And who am I? Well, I'm Dan Hunter. I set up Clear Mind, Clear Life after quitting drinking in 2017, had many ups and downs along the way. Took me years to finally get alcohol out of my life, and I set up Clear Mind, Clear Life to help people like you, like me, that have a problem with their drinking. I will shrink that time from years down to months. Anyway, on with the video. So the first reason that willpower fails is what I call like the phone battery problem. Willpower is a finite resource. It's like the battery on your phone. So think about it this way. You wake up in the morning and your battery is at 100%. And then every little decision that you make throughout the day drains that battery just a little bit. Should I check my email? What should I have for lunch? Should I wear this tie? Should I wear these shoes? Do I take this call? Who's calling me? Should I text this person back? And by the time you've made these kind of 1,000 micro decisions throughout the day, your phone battery is left at about 20%. And this is when the cravings start to hit you towards the end of the day. And that is when your brain says, do you know what would be nice? A little drink. Maybe we could have a drink, a nice cold beer. So you're essentially trying to fight your strongest urges kind of at your weakest point. And to give you another analogy here, it's like trying to bench press your personal best at the end of a workout when you're already completely tired from doing 2 hours of working out on weights. It's a bit like trying to bench press your personal best when you're exhausted. What you're doing is you're setting yourself up to fail. And this is why successful people can kind of crush it all day at work, but then struggle with alcohol in the evening. Like, they're not broken, they're not weak, they're human. You're a human being. You can only do so much. The second reason that willpower fails is you're seeing alcohol as something good. So when you're telling yourself, oh, I can't drink, what your brain is hearing is, oh, I can't have something that's good. I can't have something that's fun. And it's like you're being denied. You can't have something that you want. It's like telling a child that they can't have some candy. And what happens? They want the candy all the more. And your subconscious mind is working in the same way. Denial creates want almost. So what you'll do is you'll end up spending like the whole day fighting with yourself, wanting a drink, but knowing that you shouldn't, talking yourself into it, talking yourself out of it. The whole thing is completely exhausting. And what's worse is every time you're resisting a craving with willpower, you're actually reinforcing that whole paradigm that alcohol is something valuable, is something that you're denying yourself. So you're teaching yourself that drinking is the reward and not drinking is kind of like a punishment. And obviously this is completely backwards. Alcohol isn't the reward. Alcohol is actually the thing that's spinning your life out of control. It's destroying your relationships. It's destroying your life and your potential. So let me share with you some numbers that I think are going to shock you. So when people rely on willpower alone, the chances of them relapsing within the first 30 days are between 40 and 60% relying on willpower alone. And that number shoots up to 85% of people will relapse within the first year. So, these aren't weak people. These are professional people with jobs, careers, families, things like that. It's just the way you're wired as a human being. You're being given the wrong tools to deal with the job at hand. Like, Imagine if somebody offered you a business opportunity with an 85% chance of failure. That's probably not the best thing to be investing in. And I know all about this because I've basically lived this. I've been through this myself. I'm not immune from it. I tried the whole white knuckle approach and just willpower all of the time. I would go, sometimes I would make 3 days, sometimes I'd make 3 weeks. Hell, sometimes I even made 3 months. I managed to get from January to April and then just started drinking again. And the problem is that something will always happen. There will always be a stressful situation. There will always be an issue that comes up. It's like trying to climb a sand dune. You're constantly sort of sliding backwards and you're never going to do it. Because after like a bad day or, a particularly bad argument with somebody, a lot of times drinking kind of feels necessary. It's something that you're so ingrained with that that there's a quick fix. Obviously, we know that there's a price to pay later, but we don't want to feel that pain in the moment. And we know that having that drink will alleviate that. And as I say, this is something that's not talked about a lot in this community, is alcohol, drugs, whatever. It works. And that's a really unpopular thing to say, but it works. That's why you do it. You wouldn't do it if it didn't work. So what we have to do is we have to break that connection. And the problem with willpower, and the problem that I had, is that every time I inevitably failed, it sort of reinforced this idea that maybe I was a loser, maybe I wasn't that strong. And it was just chipping away at my self-confidence, my self-image, and my self-worth. And I think if you've been drinking for any length of time, this will resonate with you, because you will almost certainly have been a much more confident person a few years ago, and the alcohol has chipped away and created a person that perhaps you don't recognize as much. But the good news is that person can come back. Okay, I'm here to tell you that that person can and will come back. So with that said, if willpower doesn't work, well, what does work? Okay, so what we need to do is reframe the relationship with alcohol. What we need to do is we need to change that feeling of, rather than it being something of substance and importance in your life, we need to see it for what it is, which is actually this deadly poison. And it's a substance that's been stealing from you. It's a bit like let's say you've got a friend and they're always coming over to your house. You've known them for years, but then recently you've started noticing things go missing. A ring has gone missing. Some silverware has gone missing. One of your Xbox games has gone missing, something like that. And it can only really be this person. Would you need willpower to keep that person out? Of course not. You'd probably change the locks and call the police. And this is the thing that alcohol's been doing in your life. It's been convincing you that it's your friend, but the whole time it's been talking shit behind your back and it's been stealing from you. It's not a good friend. And when I'm working with people to get them off of alcohol, I don't convince them to not drink. I help them to see alcohol clearly for the first time and how it affects their life. And these are not just words. We do work on some very powerful techniques that help lock those kind of puzzle pieces into place. And it's not about being strong enough to resist temptation. It's about being smart enough to realize that there actually is no temptation. It's just a clear choice between what serves you and what steals from you. So in the clear choice framework, in the program, there's a few things that will help reshape your relationship to alcohol. I'll give you a couple of them now for free that you can do today if you want. And it's just asking yourself 2 simple questions. So question 1, what will alcohol give me tonight? And be honest. It will maybe give you 2 or 3 hours of feeling relaxed and social. We all know the feeling. And question 2 is, what will alcohol take from? So that's things like, it's going to be your energy tomorrow, your sleep quality, your clarity for the next 2 or 3 days. Because let's face it, you're probably not just going to have 1 or 2 drinks. You're probably going to get drunk. It's going to diminish your presence with your family, your money, and your self-respect. And this is the thing with alcohol, is it's never just that 1 drink, is it? And it's never just having a couple. It's always drinking to excess and just becoming a sloppy mess. So it's not just about that 1 night. It's about the next week, the next 3 or 4 days, all for a couple of hours of relaxation and removing that kind of social anxiety. And if you do this kind of math honestly, you can weigh it up. You can see the sort of 2, 3, 4 hours of kind of pleasure that you get offset with the 3, 4, 5 days of problems that you will have with, money, finances, relationships, family, all of these things, your mental health. Like, none of it really is worth it. It's like trading a dollar for a penny. And once you start seeing that kind of exchange rate clearly, that's where the shift and the magic starts to happen. Is it going to happen overnight? No, but there are some powerful techniques and powerful things that we can do to get you on that page much quicker than it took me to get there. So as you can see, this is not about willpower. It's almost about math. And once you kind of see the math, there's no going back. You can't sort of unsee it. It's like letting you peek behind the curtain. And from that point, the spell is broken almost. And one of the other things we do in the program is win stacking, or stacking as we call it. So when you have these minor victories, what we do is we build on them, we reinforce them. And 1 win is great, 2 wins is better, 3 wins is better than that. And we keep stacking these wins, these minor things that will lead into this bigger whole. Because when you started drinking, you didn't start drinking a crazy amount to excess right away. You built up to it. So what we're going to do is break all of that down and then build it up again with these wins. And they can be small, they can be big. Usually they're small wins stacked on each other. And as you start progressing, you find you sleep better, your relationships improve, your mental clarity improves, your diet improves, you start going to the gym, you start playing tennis again, you start playing hockey, whatever it was you were doing before, you suddenly start living again. Now, let me share something with you that I think is going to blow your mind. So within neuroscience, this is relatively new, but willpower and addiction live in separate parts of the brain. So let me say that again. Willpower and addiction live in separate parts of the brain. Willpower comes from your prefrontal cortex. That's your kind of reasoning part of your brain. That's the rational thinking part of your brain. But addiction lives in the limbic system, that primitive lizard type brain. It's a very old system that we've had since we were fish crawling out the sea. And it's the sort of primitive survival part of your brain. So it's like when you're fighting an addiction, it's like bringing a calculator to a knife fight. And it's like the rational part of your brain is trying to argue with the primitive part of your brain. And you can imagine that these two just do not meet at all, because the survival part of your brain just doesn't care about logic at all. It isn't logical. It cannot be logical. It's black and white. You can see where we're going with this. The secret is not willpower. The secret is in kind of reprogramming that limbic system. And you can't do that by force. It needs to be with knowledge and conditioning. Now, what does this look like in the real world? So let me give you an example of Sarah, who was in our group a while ago. Sarah is 30 years old. She is a marketing director who tried to quit drinking with willpower, but would constantly slip back and fail. Every sort of 30, 60 days, she'd be back on that kind of roller coaster again. She came to me convinced that she was broken. She was really upset, and she just didn't really know what to do. And within about 2 weeks, it happened really quickly, she just didn't want the alcohol anymore. Now, she wasn't chemically dependent on the alcohol, but she was certainly sort of psychologically addicted to it. And the reason that she was able to get control of that urge wasn't the fact that we'd kind of ramped her willpower up. We'd given her mental weights and she was now this superhuman. What we'd actually done is reprogram the part of her brain that was able to see alcohol for what it actually was. And within 6 months, she'd lost, I think, 25 pounds. She had been promoted in her job, and everything was going so much better than it was before, because she'd removed this thief from her life, this demon that was kind of attached to her. Alcohol was no longer part of her life. And to be honest, that was actually really satisfying. It was great to see the progress that she'd made. She's so much happier in her life now. As I say, it's exchanging a dollar for a penny. Once you see the exchange rate, then it's very easy to make that mind shift. But anyway, that's going to do it for today. If you do want to have a call with me, you can book that call below. and we can get you free of alcohol once and for all using these methods, and you will never want to go back to it again. So having said all of that, sometimes people will have relapses, and the key thing, again, is to not make this something that it doesn't need to be. You can watch this video here, which is why relapsing isn't the end. Give that a click and be kind to yourself, because it's not the end of the world, okay? Click it now. Do it.